what's up? I hope I can be heard. Basically, I wanted to do this live until I'm half expecting a call, like 25% expecting a call. So I figured I'd go on this live and continue off reading from this first draft sort of book that I have collected together about God and spirituality, things like that. Kind of where I left off before, but it's not necessarily in any particular order. Um, this is basically a series or a collection of notes that I've accumulated over quite a few years. Um, but feel free to drop a comment or a question or basically what we talked about before was how the nature of God, who I call Elah, Elah, and to be 100% real, Elah is just an Aramaic term. Uh, it is actually found in the Old Testament, which is called Tanakh, in the Hebrew. I think there's two references of the word Elah, but it's an Aramaic term. But for my purposes, particularly with this writing and stuff, it was an easy acronym. Is that what it is? It was easy to split in the middle between L and A. So that's what I call God, Elah. So whenever I say things like Elah, God, that's what I'm referring to. It's just a title. I happen to believe that God's name, if God were to have an identifiable name, would be something that couldn't be pronounced anyway. So all we have are titles, designations, categories. But I was talking about before. What's up? How are you? Hi. Talking about God. How are y'all doing? Kelly Dunham. So I was talking about before how basically the nature of the divine, if I can get away with using that word, is split between two ways, or two faces is how I worded it in this thing. But you could use the word face, quality, nature, tendency. It's all the same. What's up, Vince? Andrea. I'm reading from a notebook that I've collected over the years regarding God and spirituality. It's kind of a cobbled together journal thing. It's basically a book in embryo form, a manuscript. Oh, thanks. I appreciate the sub. But one of the first themes that I talk about in this is how God is basically split into two natures, designated as a duality. As a duality, in that the interaction of that duality is what you see around, and that the symbolism of that duality can be found in actual, like, practical things, like a Bible, kinda, yeah. There's a lot behind all this, a lot of personal history, a lot of places I've seen and been, a lot of books I've read. So it would be hard to fit into a single live or whatever. But yeah, that's a good way of putting it. It's a collection of writings. So I thought I'd go just verse by verse or sentence by sentence and expand on it. And each and every word of these sentences was somewhat carefully chosen. Like, I want to say carefully or mindfully chosen, but it's not concrete. In other words, the words could be exchanged and they could have the same meaning. So something like this sentence that says, God is oneness and has two faces and many children. Like, that's one sentence. God is oneness. That by itself is a huge theological topic. What's up, Maria? How are you? Like, what does it mean to say that God is one, or to say that God is oneness? There can be oneness or unity beyond there being just one. Do you see the difference? So to say God is oneness means that amongst all the diversity of creation and everything that we see, it's the same underlying principle, which is God. That's oneness. That's the important part, not the digit. What's up? Everyone, please likes to this poor person he's reading to us the Bible. It's very nice and you should have to nothing like speech to the gospel. We try psychedelics to meet God. I actually have not ever had psychedelics that I know of. There was an occasion when I was in high school. I've had a lot of weed, but I actually do not like weed. It paranoids me. But no, I've never had psychedelics. I've been around people on psychedelics. DMT, stuff like that. Are you allowed to say that on here? I don't want to get kicked off of YouTube. Y'all know what I'm talking about. But why is it important? Basically, the underlying unity of everything is important because it helps to recognize the pattern, and by the recognition of pattern, we know what's good and what is not so good, if that makes sense. I'm literally saying these things as I go. Is that a bug? It's like 31 degrees out here. Loving the stream. Hey, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. You are so sweet and kind and nice. I love this video. Hey, I appreciate it. I really do appreciate y'all coming in and stuff and listening. This is stuff, not all of it, but some of this stuff I've never shared with people before. So it's got a lot of personal significance. But yeah, so that's the point of what I'm trying to say, is superficially religion tends to get focused on the unit rather than the unity. You'll notice that people will say things like, there's only one God, there must only be this many gods, there must only be this set of things. There's boundaries which are surface level. The point is that in the multiplicity of everything, there is one amongst many. That's the point. And that's all in that one sentence. Or that's what's meant to be conveyed by that one sentence. Living stream, did you kill someone? No. He did not relax. I'm sorry, Maria, I don't know what you're referring to. So, do you guys know about yin and yang? Darkness and light. Heat and cold. The duality of everything. That's what I mean. Both the darkness and the light is God. Not just one or the other. Yeah, you see what I'm saying? We grow up in a culture that's slanted very one way. And this culture is betrayed by the language that we use. You'll see it a lot. The light of God. What do you imagine when you imagine God, heaven, goodness, angels? You imagine light. It's all light. The darkness is also God. Because if God is the all power, then it's the all. Darkness, light, gray. So that's another part of it. I'm trying to see what else I can break down here. So this thing comes in like, it's just printed out on paper, but it comes in like short snippets. This one, for example, says, what is created always comes apart, and what comes apart is always renewed. That's something that you can just see by living life. You can see the stuff that comes about in life. An obvious example would be death. Something that comes to life will die, will meet its end, come apart. But life is always renewed. You see it in the seasons. The first chapter of this book is basically to illustrate the obviousness of what's going on, and that what's going on is what we call, or what I call, God. What's up, Nicholas? Sorry if I get kind of like lost in the ether and I don't see the chats right away, but thank you for coming in. So it says, what is created always comes apart, and what comes apart is always renewed. Think fall, winter, spring. It's literally right in front of our faces. And actually, one of the things that prompted me to make this stream of lives that I'm doing currently was this person was on a live, and they were debating. They were an atheist, and they were debating with people whether or not God existed and stuff like that. So that's one of the reasons that I thought I'd come on here and offer my 2 cents about that type of stuff. One of the things that a lot of people who are atheist or atheistic, meaning they have no belief in anything transcendental, it's all materialism. This is what we see now, here and now, is all that there is and all that there ever will be. One of the biggest arguments they say is that there's no evidence for God. The evidence is this, here and now. This isn't separate from it, in other words. This is kind of a chunky one, this sentence here I'm about to read. So bear with me. The universe is the work of Elah, God. Like I said before in the live, I call God Elah, E-L-A-H. The universe is the work of Elah, God. Life is the work of the universe. The soul is the work of life. Religion is the work of the soul. God is the work of religion. So I don't know if you could keep track, but in the beginning of that sentence and at the end of it, the word God came up at both the beginning and the end of that sentence, that whole thing. Which is why the following sentence says, everything is a circle. The universe is the work of God, Elah, God. So the Creator makes everything. Life, conscious life, is what results from the universe. The soul is the work of life. So if you could picture these as like circles within circles within circles. So each one is containing the other. The universe is the work of Elah, God, big circle. Life is the work of the universe, circle in there. The soul is the work of life. So in other words, the purpose of life, of consciousness, is to work on the soul. Life holds the soul. Religion is the work of the soul. And then God, the big circle again, is the work of religion. When I originally wrote this, when I kept using the word or the words, the work, what I meant to say or convey is purpose. The universe is the purpose of Elah, God. Life is the purpose of the universe. So the work, purpose, same thing. Tomato, tomato. Let me know if none of this makes sense. But that's all on the first page. So like I said, writing this thing was so hard because the introductory of these words are like icebergs, or sentences rather, are like icebergs. There's just one sentence, but beneath it all is this massive amount of meaning. So that's what the rest of this is explanations of this concepts. Concepts like that, like duality and patterns in nature, yada yada. I could just read the whole thing word for word without explanation, but that leaves a lot of room for misunderstanding. Talks about when time began, what time is, time, what that actually means. Time is just the interaction of those original two qualities of those are the original two qualities of the oneness, if that makes any sense. You see what I mean? The original two. Time is the interaction of those. That's what this is. Like, that's what's going on right now. That's what we call time. And then it talks about how inside everything, literally, me, this book, the phone, the sky, anything, everything, inside everything, there remains the original two. So inside everything are those two qualities of the one God. And then it goes into things talking about further breaking down that concept. The following stuff gets a little bit poetical, if that's a word. Like the following chapters in this thing. Like, for example, this sentence. Chapter 5. I just kind of arbitrarily called what it is. Allah God ought by the faithful be first met by the soul and then followed by the body which listens to the soul, or spirit. Soul, spirit, it's interchangeable. And that human is that heaven might be born within their heart. So heaven isn't some place that isn't first here, that isn't first within. That's a whole other thing. It's a lot harder than I thought it would be. It says, I'll just continue reading. Take you, faith, which is the guided mind, in order to see with your mind those good things which are not yet, but will be. Follow the light which, though distant, does shine. What remains unclear in this order, meaning here, the soul knows. This is an interesting part because it talks about a physical representation of this concept, of this sort of like in the clouds concept. Look at the human body and there you'll see the mark of God. 2 eyes and 2 legs and 2 feet with which you walk, 2 ears with which you hear, and 2 hands with which you work. There, look, the original divide, meaning the 2 qualities, made one in you, and you from it. So, it's literally physically written in creation. It's reflected in the things that we physically see, and that with which we see itself. This duality of God, kind of going back to the first chapter. So in the heart of Adam, El and Ah are made whole again. And they find heaven yet sitting still. Faith is like those who, knowing and seeing as everyone else does that the sun has set, still they look to the light of the moon in her testimony and remember the sun will come back. Thus the wise see by faith what the eyes fail to deliver. And then it gives a biblical reference, actually. I typed in a biblical reference of 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 7, which are kind of littered throughout this whole thing as supplemental. The faithful are like the moon in that they, though scarred with ancient wounds, reflect in their position the sunlight, even in the middle of the dark night. It's with our view of the great divide in all things, as close as our very eyes to as far off as the stars, that we can find rest for our frightened mind and know that all is designed. So this is where the thing, this journal kind of becomes more and more poetic. It's not very long, honestly. I could probably read this whole thing in like 2 or 3 lives. Well, lives, you know what I mean. But yeah, it's just in a black binder. It's kind of a... I started writing about this stuff when I was very young. Like 7. I'm 34. Not in that wordage, but I totally can't even see the number of people watching, so I have no clue who's watching right now. But I do appreciate all the likes and all that stuff. It really helps in the algorithm. It helps to get the message out. Yes, I smoke cigarettes. I'm sorry if that's offensive. Don't smoke. It's pretty cold out here. This coffee is so gross. But yeah, that basically is the pretext to everything else. To understand that the nature of the world, if you could put it in one freaking sentence, the nature of the world is duality. That's why everything is the way it is. And not necessarily in the sense of, example, light and darkness. Is there sometimes twilight? Or gray? So duality doesn't just mean two, literally. It just means opposition. And that's what we see. It's what we live. But it's also what this comes from. Like life. What's happening right now. Pretty wild to think about. Or maybe it isn't. Because one thing I've learned, if I think I've learned anything, which I hope I have, is that sometimes the most true truths are some of the most obvious. And they're missed because they're so obvious. They're right in front of our face. So we miss them. Just like things that are loved are taken for granted. And then when they're gone, they're missed. Same kind of deal. It does really make me wonder, though, with this YouTube live thing. 20 will come in for like 2 minutes, and then it'll drop to 0. Why doesn't it fluctuate? What causes that? I'm not a tech guy, so I would never know. Could it be the hashtags? Darth Destroyer. Did you kill someone? What kind of question is that? That's a funny question. It's a really nice phone. I'm glad I don't have to prop this phone on a landscaping brick. I have no idea how there are bugs out here. It's like 29 degrees. The hell? Must be the global warming. I think, well, one of the things that I anticipated doing instead of this tonight with this live was to read my fiction book. But Amazon was late again. I got a notification at like 1 p.m. today that it wouldn't come until tomorrow. So that kind of fucked things up. If anyone's still here, say aye. Very strange. Until next time, thanks for the likes.